Alright. Third time's fucking charm. Okay. Anyhow. Hello everyone. This is a recording. If you're watching this on Twitch, this is a recording. If you're talking chat, I cannot respond to you. This is really just an explanation of the story, since both on, well, Twitch and on my VOD's YouTube channel, which I have made. Go check it out, and, you know, be updated on story and stuff. Anyhow, I wanted to explain a few things and kind of have everyone up to date on what is really, like, going on in the story. So I want to, like, explain some things, some need-to-know things about mainly Cell's character and things that have pretty much happened to her, and especially before, you know, the whole corruption and all that. So, first things first, Syl is from the Nether. She is a imp demon, and since, well, she's an imp, there are, you know, types of demons. And they all live in Eternia. That's why people can't, like, normally see them out and about in the Nether. With that, the city is quite large because of that. It's like a giant circle that is thousands upon millions of blocks away from Citadel. And it's able to encompass all of the different biomes of the Nether, so the Crimson Forest, the Warped Forest, Nether Wastes, all of it. And this city is dubbed Eternia. I'm not sure if I've already said that. And since she lived in Eternia and everything, eventually she found and actually fell in love with a girl named Nyx. Now, if you haven't heard that name before, Nyx is also a demon creature that's also from Eternia, but is part of the Warped Forest. Syl is part of the Nether Wastes, and the two of them actually ended up being great friends, and then being best friends, and then they both realized, like, oh wait, I have more than just a friendly attachment to this person. So, after a few years, they eventually wanted to get married, but marriage laws in Eternia are kind of weird and just off, really. So, and this is because of the several different kinds of demons in Eternia. With there being different kinds, there's different marriage laws, and since they're both two different demons, it's not normal for that to happen. It's not normal. So, with that fact, they decided to be like, maybe there's better marriage laws in some town or city in the overworld. And they've all heard of the overworld. It's sort of like a folklore story / true story, and they know it's real, but they don't know how the hell to get there. So, Syl having to, well, leave the confines of Eternia and actually venture out to find one of these portals that's actually already filled in the Nether, which is uncommon to find normally. But she had to basically leave, and because of that, she told everyone, told her loved ones, told Nyx and her family about it, and they all agreed, like, hey, if you two want to be together, might as well try and find some better place to get married and stuff, or it's, like, easier. So Nyx ventured out, eventually finding a portal and going to the overworld. And after a few months of like learning how to survive in the overworld fitfully, she found a city named Citadel, or it was going to be called Citadel. It wasn't official yet. It was just a small town. And Kitty, the owner of this town, well, the aforementioned owner, she wasn't exactly the owner yet at the time, but she helped Syl to find some place to stay, or at least find some place where she can build her house and all that. So, she built her house, she has a place to stay and all that, and one of her neighbors is named Notch, or Silver. It's kind of confusing what he prefers to call himself, since he responds to both names, so it's unclear. But he was a nervous type. He sort of anxious all the time. And he actually had like a panic room, a calming room. And Syl, being the only one that was like his neighbor, and really the only one that wanted to show him at least a bit of dignity, a bit of kindness, well, was kind to him. And one day, she, after like getting her house built, she goes ahead and like introduces herself to everybody else and like finally meets everyone, and is actually the first time that she ever meets Death, Synergy, and Red Knight. Death, Synergy, and Red Knight. And Kitty had actually found a book that was made by someone. It was unsure who. The book said it was. All it said that it was Gold's memory book. That is literally all it said. That was all there was to know whose it was. So, she decides to go investigating, and there's actually a clue at the end of the book of where another book is, and it's dubbed Silver's memory book. So, me and Kitty, or Syl and Kitty, the character, Syl, decide to go and like talk with Notch and see what's going on. Immediately after mentioning the two books, Notch gets very nervous and backs up to the corner. And after discussing with everybody else, because a meeting was sort of called, and all of us as a group going and like trying to find Notch and like discuss with him about it, Notch had dipped. He was out. He was away from his base. He had seemingly gone, with no trace other than that he left his items except for his armor and tools. We decided to go searching for him. Couldn't find anything. We looked through his mine. We looked in like this weird tunnel, like an escape route almost. And there's nothing. We couldn't find anything. So we essentially gave up for the time being. Until Syl got a message from Notch of coordinates and the words "find him." Now, it seems very strange of her getting this message. So Syl pretty much dragged Kitty over to the coordinates to go find Notch. And they did eventually find him, but he boated off, and I still wanted to chase after him, but because, well, she was not gonna lie, worried about him, but chose not to, since Kitty didn't want to, well, be chasing after a protogen, which is what Notch was. But after finding Notch, and after the day has passed, next day, Notch is found again. Well, we do another search, we find Notch, and Notch is acting very strange. He seems more nervous than ever, and Notch actually hits Kitty, and as a result, Kitty hits back and is now, like, gunning to kill him. And Death actually, like, joined in, only because he saw him, like, hit Kitty, and that was it. So, with that, Notch had actually died in the fight. Well, it wasn't really a fight, he sort of started running, but he died, and when he came back, it was not Notch. It was instead this other persona, this other side of him. And Syl dubbed him as Gold because of the two different memory books, with one being silver, one being gold. And how he acted reflected the wording of the gold memory book. So, with that little bit of heartache, Syl goes back and sort of just everything settles down for a while. Syl's made a mine and is preparing for a cow farm, which never gets finished. I'll be very honest with that. I try to, and then I get distracted and I never finish it. Eventually, stuff starts popping up out of nowhere, seemingly. And it's these obsidian and crying obsidian things that are popping out of the ground. There's netherrack spreading it from them. Now these are what are dubbed as spores. At least that's what the entity calls them. And as far as we know, the entity, as far as we know from this point, the entity is someone who cannot be killed easily. And basically he's very powerful, especially to people of the Nether, i.e. Salinity, Xeno. Oh wait, I completely forgot about Xeno. Let's go explain that one, shall we? Okay, Xeno is another Nether creature that is also from Eternia. Syl doesn't know much about him, but he seems to know a lot about her. Now, I can't spoil too much about Xeno, because I myself actually, know what's going on about Xeno and all that, but I can't say that for various reasons. So, with that, there's Xeno, and he seems to be a part of End, which End is a skeleton, or he's actually known as a lich. And we just joke that he's a skeleton. But he's a skeleton from the End, and that's pretty much it about him. He uses ender pearls to survive, because he takes, the life force out of it. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I'll be very honest with that. But, so, this means that Syl, Xeno, and Nyx are all affected. Now, before, I'm actually gonna backtrack a bit, because I forgot to explain this part. Okay, I wrote it down, but I didn't talk about it. But Nyx, who Nyx and Syl are thing and all that, Nyx decides to go ahead and follow, secretly she was following Selenity, and eventually she pops up practically right outside the nether portals that lead to Citadel. And when she arrives, Kitty pretty much makes a fool out of her and starts asking her to lick things, to eat things that would poison her, like spider eyes, rotten flesh. It was kind of fucked up. It's kind of fucked up. Of course, Nyx didn't know any better because she doesn't know anything about the overworld, but Syl does because she's been there for a few months. I'd say by this point probably 7-ish months. Yeah, I'd say 7-ish months. So pretty much Nyx is now there. Nyx is now in the narrative at Citadel. So, kind of semi-alarming, but nothing was really of it. Selena was actually very happy that Nyx is actually there, and a few days after she arrives, she eventually leaves Citadel to go exploring, to go experience the overworld and all that, and just really see the overworld's beauty for what it is. Of course, she wouldn't be able to do that on a mountain biome, would she? So, thus her leaving and not being there for quite a bit. So, Nyx is there, and I forgot to mention one last thing before talking about the corruption, because I know once I start talking about that fully, I will not stop talking about it. But Syl has a sort of, I don't know what to call it, like a split personality disorder or something. I don't know. But she has two sides of her. One being, Selenity, and the one being known as Demia. Demia is the more imp-like version of her. More of a slightly reddish tint to her skin, more reddish hair, more, just more demon-like than Selenity. I mean, at most, there's the wings currently. But that's about it. And this other side of her, Demia, is of course more attached to the Nether, and it pretty much what makes Selenity her. And one day after Selenity gets into a bunch of stress, Demia takes control, and pretty much it's pretty much just Demia for a day, and that's about it. And one thing I do gotta mention is that from this perspective, the left eye is Demia's, the right eye is Selenity's. Just want to point that out. But because eye color is actually very important with Syl. Depending on what eye color it is, that is what side of her it is. It's either Demia or Selenity. And why is it both colors though? Why is it both colors for this version of the skin? It's because after that one day of Demia Demia being out and about, Selenity forcefully takes back control, which they've never done before. So it kind of fucks up the process. Now that both of them are both essentially taking control, except Selene is really just the one who's mainly taking it. And Demi is just there. And that is very important for corruption. Because of the whole Demia being more part of the Nether than Sil. So, anyhow, finally getting into roughly current events, which is the corruption. Now, with these sprouts coming up, Sil didn't think of anything of it. And it was like, okay, I guess it's fine, it's not really doing anything wrong. Anything majorly wrong. Except when it sprouts up at another base that she had made far away. It was sort of like a safe haven for her. If things went suddenly super hectic back in Citadel and she just needed some place to calm down. The spores started sprouting up there, and with it being, one, an eyesore, and two, if someone was boating by the island that she had partially claimed to make her build, you could see the broken portal, the portal that was made like a few miles in the horizon, and that's not okay. That's not okay. So Sil destroys it when it starts encroaching on her land. Because she built two walls guarding off from two forests. What are they called? Dark oak forests, because it was like in a valley of plains and then dark forests either side. So it was starting to encroach on her land. She destroyed all of the obsidian, including the crying obsidian, which is very important. She destroys all of that and starts hearing whispers. Now, what is currently understood, I'm going to mention that later. But the whispers are basically saying that, oh, there's a bigger one now at your second base. So, of course, immediately goes ahead and checks. And yes, there is a bigger one outside of her base. There's an Elder Spore. An Elder Spore is where there is a beacon that is active with golden blocks, and it's a red beacon. It is a red beam of light coming off it. And this immediately pisses off Sil. This is meant to be secretive. If someone gets in render distance of this beacon, her place will immediately get found out because of curiosity. So she attempts to break it. Wither skeletons start spawning on her, which pisses her off even more. So, well, it's fucking great. There's something protecting it for some random ass reason. She doesn't know what's actually going on. So she sleeps on it, and in the morning, she destroys it. Luckily in the morning, nothing spawns to protect it or defend it, so she destroys all of it. Every single block that was changed or placed, mainly changed into netherrack because of these spores, she destroyed everything. Destroyed all of it. Burned all of it. She even, blew up, parts of it so that it would not come back. At all. So, with that, she started hearing whispers more often, but it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, right? It wasn't gonna get worse. Oh, honey, it's gonna get a lot worse. When heading back to her original home, and or Eandalic. Everyone just calls him End because it's easier to say than Eandalic. Wanted to have Syl participate in a few experiments that had to do with these spores. And she was like, oh, that's fine, I guess. And unknowingly, apparently it started just spreading because he placed it, or had it placed on the ground. So, it spread through his base, partially. So, yay. Luckily it hasn't spread anymore, so that's good. That's good. So they did some experimenting. Apparently water turns to lava, dirt gets turned into grass, stone gets turned into blackstone. Or, did I say grass? Dirt gets turned into grass. Dirt and grass turn into netherrack. Right. Basically making every block associated with the nether and not the overworld. So, with this, he finally did one last little thing, which was to destroy one of the pieces of crying obsidian that was coming off the spore. As soon as he destroyed it, as soon as he did it, Syl started hearing voices. And not any kind of voices. These are the voices of the entity. And at first, Syl was suddenly very scared, very just not knowing what the fuck was going on. Very scared. She tried booking it to her safe home, her second base. Didn't work because apparently he could summon in his army, a small army troop, to her base. Fun. So, tried to cool off from it. Eventually got dragged in with Xeno to the Nether to try and fight this guy. She ended up dying. And I'm not as a writer, from the writer's point, I don't know whether or not to count it as one of her lives being taken. But I kind of want to do that now. Anyhow, she dies in the Nether, and one of her lives were lost. Yeah. I'm just gonna confirm that one of her lives got lost. Oh, by the way, there is a live system. Everyone has 5 lives, so now Syl is at 4. Anyhow, she's at 4 lives. I don't think Xeno died by, I think he died by a mob, so I think he's in the clear. It's only if a player gets killed by another player that it counts, and it works for story. So, Syl dies, and appears back at her home. She eventually blocks out the voice, calms down, and makes the decision to fight back against this thing. Because now, whatever the hell this is, it is a threat to Citadel, it is a threat to the world as she knew it. It was basically a threat to the overworld. She didn't know what the fuck it was exactly, but she declared it. And she eventually, from some other person, which she actually mistook as the entity, it was fine. She was fine. He helped to explain a few things about the entity, about his origins. Apparently, he's an outlaw of the Nether, and has immense power. And thing is, he has influence. He's capable of having influence to anyone. It could be Kitty, it could be and like it could be mean. It could be mean. Everyone was capable of being under his grasp. What do I mean by that? As in, he could literally do anything with you. He could kill you on the spot. He can make you he can make him pretty much, he can make you do whatever he wants if you are under his influence at a certain point. And how this influence could be increased is basically it was a connection between the person and the entity. But how it could be increased was destroying these spores, specifically the crying obsidian. And Syl destroyed a lot of crying obsidian back at her second base, especially an elder spore. And if another faring being destroys an elder spore plus a few more like crying obsidian, you're pretty much fucked, because you at that point you were meant to be under the complete influence of the entity. For some reason, Syl has rejected this power, this overarching power for so long that it hasn't been able to infect her until now. Until the present day. When, on the day that she is declaring, like, trying to, like, officially, like, get rid of the entity or suppress the entity, when breaking and the crying obsidian, which at that point in the moment, she completely forgot that she was the most vulnerable out of all of them. She was the most vulnerable out of all of them to the entity. She completely forgot that in the moment, because there was so much shit going on at that moment. She breaks the crying obsidian and loses it. Loses her grasp, kills everyone around her. All of the people around her, losing a canonical life, I'd say. And she runs, because she's scared, she doesn't know what to do, she doesn't want to hurt anyone else, and the only way that she can think of getting away from this guy was to run. And that is pretty much up to present. That is pretty much up to what is going on. That is pretty much what has happened. There is more being planned. I'm having a feeling that in the future of pretty much. You know what? In the future of the story, it will start to go in with salinity. It will start to go into semi-sensitive topics like stages of grief, so thus involving a bit of depression, thus involving the topic of depression, and it will involve some sensitive topics in the future. And I also wanted to have a last little thing. The ultimate reason why Syl is so basically so sad about her possibly losing Nyx is because, of course, they've been together for so long. And her losing her she wouldn't know what to do. She wouldn't know what to do if she found out that she was gone. And that she was actually gone. She wouldn't know what to do with herself. So yeah, that is pretty much up to present with everything. So I hope you like that. I also hope you like that. And hopefully, probably like excited for what is coming up with the story, which I'm very excited for. I'm very excited for it. So, yeah. Until, oh yeah, until tomorrow. That's when the next roleplay stream is. So yeah. Hope you like where this is eventually gonna go.